the Binock NVG 50. This is a digital night vision. And if you are familiar with digital night vision, you have heard a lot of mixed things about them. The whole reason behind that is because it's digital versus analog. How well does it perform in the dark? How well does it compare against actual night vision? Too long, didn't read. It does not compare to analog night vision. However, the price difference is so different that it would be unfair to compare a $5,000 unit to a $500 unit. So I'm not going to be comparing it too much to night vision, but I just want to talk about how usable the product is, as well as some of the issues that I had with it, and maybe if it's going to fit your use case, if you want to get helmet mounted, or maybe you just want a low light camera that you can film some late night shenanigans with. So full disclosure, I was approached by this company through Instagram and they asked me to do a review on this product. I love night vision. That is my autistic fascination, and I just can't help myself. So everything on the table, I asked, do you want an honest review or are you looking for a positive review? And they said they want an honest review. They just want me to be fair. I'm not going to compare it against something like a full set of a White Fox night vision, right? Because that is not fair. I will compare it to some similar products, one of which the leading competitor is going to be the Psionics Aurora. There's a couple different versions of those, and we'll show a lot of inset footage comparing the two. Now, all the footage shot for this, all the shooting footage in the B-roll was shot with the Psionics Aurora. I'm not going to go over all in-depth settings because honestly, that would be a really boring video to watch. And I just want to talk about its usability. As far as usability, it does work, but it will take some time to get used to it. Now, before we get too far into this, I do have to answer the glaring question. Reaver, are you the type of guy that wears sunglasses in the dark and or inside? The answer is yes. Just kidding, I had the light bar on my super cool Subaru, and it is an absolute lighthouse burning into my retinas. So by the time I'm done with this review, I will have bootleg Chinese eye surgery. So first things first, performance. Digital night vision is not going to perform the same as analog night vision. We've talked about that before, but I know a lot of guys are going to come in and say it's not as good. It's not. But how it works is it is essentially a low light digital camera. That's all it is. There's no magic, there's no nothing. As far as low light performance goes, it's rough. It really depends on the ambient lighting. Tonight we have a full moon and a lot of ambient illumination to make sure the footage is clear. However, once you start to get past about a half moon or below, your picture starts to degrade a lot, to the point where it starts to become unusable. As far as a new moon, no light, no ambient illumination, just stars, it's unusable. But if you're going around, you're airsofting in a neighborhood or something like that, then there's going to be enough ambient light that it will work for you. Now, as far as a professional use case, I cannot recommend this product. Honestly, it felt like more of a hindrance than a help in a lot of different situations, and we'll get into those reasons in a little bit. But for airsoft or just kind of like walking around and hiking, I totally think this is usable so long as there's enough ambient light for it to actually pick it up. One of the biggest things you notice right off the bat is the viewfinder lag. What this means is as you start to move very quickly, the picture takes a second to catch up with where your head is actually at. If this was a pair of binocular night vision, so 2 units instead of the 1 monocular, it would be a little bit easier because your eyes are seeing the same thing. My big thing whenever I was doing a lot of fast movements out here was my left eye would see the actual what I was seeing, the light or whatever was in front of me, and then my other eye would be slightly behind. That honestly created a little bit of nausea, and it did take a lot of time to kind of get used to the point when I felt comfortable navigating with it. My next major gripe, and this was probably the real deal breaker for me, was something about the ocular lens that's right next to your eye. If it is not dead on with your eye, the entire picture is smeared. What that means is anytime your unit moves, your helmet moves, the mount moves, there's a little bit of wobble to it, the picture is thrown off a little bit and it looks like Vaseline is put across it. So then you have to go adjust it, get it dead on, and the picture clears up, and then you move around again and it smears. If there's one thing that I could fix to make this a lot more usable, it would absolutely be that. Something that I do appreciate about Binock is they are constantly working to make this product better. Halfway through my review, they said, hey, let us know what changes you would like to make. That way we can have our next version better. That makes me feel really good because they're constantly trying to make a product that's a little bit better for you, the user. The next thing that I would fix is having some form of tether that is available on the night vision. So in order to make it a lot more stable on your head, a lot of night vision units have places where you can put little zip ties through, and then the retention lanyards, these little bungees that are on your helmet, will attach to it and then pull it close. This helps a lot to make sure it's not bouncing and moving around. This unit did not have it, and so I kind of jerry-rigged my own, and that helped a little bit, but it was not perfect. Now, because the lens does smear when it's not dead on, that was really what I was trying to fix, is making sure it was steady. So if they don't fix the lens or they try to limit it and they add that on, it is going to be much more usable in a much more dynamic environment. So some pros to it is I do feel like the performance was about on par to the Psionics Aurora. And with medium to low lights, it's okay, but once you start getting a full moon, the picture is actually really, really good. Now with that comes a low depth of field, but regular night vision has that as well. So you kind of have to focus it at a point in front of you and then it clears up. Comparing it again to the Psionics Aurora, the controls are much more user-friendly. This is set up more like a PVS-14 instead of a digital camera, while the Psionics really can be head mounted, but it really sucks. Something else that I would ask for is a set of instructions for the mount. They give you very detailed instructions about how the internals work, how to go through all the settings and go through the menus, which are quite extensive, but they don't have any instructions for setting up the actual mount. It does come with a box full of different mounts. One is a helmet one is a dovetail mount, the other one is a rifle mount, and the other one is just like some random one. There's no instructions, and so you don't know what goes to what. And so I had to reach out to the rep that originally contacted me and said, hey, do you know how these work? Is there instructions for it? And she ended up just sending me pictures. And from that, I was able to find out how they put together, because they have some really janky arm, which feels really cheap and chintzy. I didn't want to use that. I didn't think it'd work well. And so instead, I went ahead and set it up with a dovetail mount, but that did take a mechanical engineering degree to figure out with only the picture. So once I had that set up, it was a lot easier to use because I just attached that to my Wilcox G24 mount. G24 mounts are pretty expensive, but you can get knockoff ones online. And if you're just utilizing it for airsoft or something like that, I wouldn't spend $500 on a Wilcox mount when the unit costs $500. So that is what I would recommend if you're just using this for airsoft or something like that.
Stonks.
So if you want to talk about binocular night vision, then you will not get better performance than these. These are the Moongazer 5 billions. And even from here, I can see you typing up your hate comments. Ha-ha!
Those are too big for you?
The next thing with this unit that I've had a hard time with is you had to get it pretty close to your eye, and because of that it felt a little uncomfortable and you can't really wear ear pro with it. It is a rectangular picture, and so you lose a lot of what's going on down here at the bottom and you lose a lot of what's going on up here up top. The real big loss is down below because I just feel like you get a lot more movement as you are utilizing that. But that isn't a binoc thing, that's just a digital night vision thing, and it will be a learning curve for you to get over if you end up getting a unit like this. Now, something cool about this unit is the fact is it has a lot of different color palettes. So if you want it green, if you want it color, if you want it white phosphorus, you can go and change those colors within the unit itself. So no matter what feel you want, it's really cool. Personally, for me, I think you want to leverage the digital night vision, and so you want to use the color version because it is going to be a lot easier to navigate and use because you can see those colors. It's not perfect true to form, but it is pretty close, and I do think that helps, especially when you're brand new to utilizing this unit. With it as well is it has a compass built in, so when you're turning your head back and forth, you've got that built in. I thought that was a really, really cool feature, and you can also zoom and record with it. Recording is really awesome because if you're at an airsoft game or you're doing some hiking and you want to take that footage, all you got to do is hit that record button. The zoom feature is pretty cool. I wouldn't ever use that on top of my head because once you start pushing it out further and further from your face, it becomes a little bit disorientating. So if you're just utilizing it for hand mounted or from some sort of static location, it is really cool because you can zoom in a little bit. It is only digital zoom, so your picture does degrade a little bit, but it can help if you're just trying to see something a little bit further away. Now, who is this marketed towards? Who can I see using this? If you just want to look at something from a static location and you got a little bit of ambient light, this will work great. However, once you start helmet mounting it, it is a lot harder to use. From what it seems like, this is directed a little bit more towards airsofters, and that's great because I don't know a lot of airsofters that are going to drop $5 on a pair of night vision. So if you're utilizing it with airsoft, you can probably find a way to make it work, but just know it will take some quirks to get over in order to get used to it. I am very used to binocular night vision, so it's got 2 tubes. I'm very, very used to that. This is the first time that I've done a monocular, and I will be honest, that is a learning curve. So I do have a little bit of bias towards that because that certainly does help me because your eyes are seeing the same thing. So navigating and moving is just a little bit easier. This is not an in-depth review. This is a lot more first impressions. I've only had the unit for about 2 months now, and I've only been able to go out with a full moon a couple times in that time period. And so because of that, I can say that if you have a lot of time and experience with this unit, you will probably do a lot better than me than I had with my unit. So it is serviceable, but just know it is far from perfect. So if you like night vision, go ahead and subscribe. I can see you're not subscribing. You better click it. Thank you for joining me as we take this dive into the Binock NVG 50. I will see you on the next one.